Hello, guys. How you guys doing?
What's up? We're almost to
Hi.
Friday, so I'm doing all right.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Feeling good?
That's what
Doing
I said
good.
to someone earlier today. And then I felt guilty about it because I was like, does that imply I don't love my job?
No, I think it just implies that you enjoy time with your family and friends more on the weekend.
Right. That I'm a
I've
human
been
being.
Yeah.
that you are a human being, yeah, and that we're managing our purpose portfolios, and that it's not all about work. Just
Yeah.
posted about that. I love Darren Murph shared that concept with us, and I've just been all about that in 2023. So, well,
Totally.
Allison, welcome to the pod. How are you? You're doing great. Your New Year's off to a good start.
Yeah, it's great to be here. As you
Awesome.
said, almost Friday. It's sunny out.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we start with good news stories on the Modern People Leader, and just a way of us showing a little gratitude, positivity, and we share a personal work related story from the past week or so. Anyone want to kick us off?
I can go.
All right.
So as of as
What you
of
got?
this week, or really uh kind of like today, we are officially going to be at Transform in Vegas at the end of March. And
Woohoo!
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Vegas.
And I'm just excited to get to meet a lot of our past guests in person. I think, including you, Allison, that will make
Yeah.
six past guests that will be there as speakers. And I haven't even
Wow.
shared this with
Wow.
Steven yet, but I think we're even gonna do maybe an in-person episode or two while we're there. Like I've already had.
Ooh, live app. I
I
love it.
know. Yeah, I've already had one person that we have on the calendar, and they reached out asking, "Hey, we're going to go to Transform 2. Can we do this in person?" So, me being me, I've already ordered a couple of iPhone mics. I don't know if y'all have seen those, but you can
Oh,
go on
wow.
Amazon and get like the really cheap $30 iPhone mics that you connect to your phone. And yeah, so we might be doing impromptu interviews with people at Transform. Don't really
Wow.
have a solid plan for how we're gonna do that, but I'm
You don't
I'm
need
I'm
one.
pumped. Yeah, yeah, we don't need one. I mean, I feel like there's gonna be so many interesting topics. So, um,
I
yeah,
can't wait
I'm
to hear it. I bet it'll
yeah.
be your best episode ever because the energy of being in person is just so different. I
I,
mean, this is going to be the best episode ever, obviously, but like then I
Second
guess
best
maybe that'll be
episode.
the second
Yeah,
best. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So if you're listening to this and if you're gonna be there, please DM us and let's connect while we're there. We could maybe set up a happy hour or just like an MPL meetup. And for those of you that don't know about Transform, you should definitely check it out. And I'm not just saying that because we're partners, but I would be there either way. This was on my radar, I think, a few months ago. But since we are partners, we do have a special link that will get you $200 off. So if you're interested, you can find that in our show notes, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
piggyback off of Daniel, because that is all I didn't know about that, and that is all great news. And hell yeah, I love that we're gonna have record some in-person conversations. And I'm also thrilled about Transform. I remember seeing in my LinkedIn feed just people raving about it last year. And I was like, what is this? What are people? I didn't even know this was going on. And so to be a part of it this year, it's got to be one of the top HR people related conferences of the year. And so check it out, guys. We're going to be there doing a lot of things. So very exciting. Apart from that, my other good news is this is our second of three podcasts that we're recording this week, and with really diverse conversations. So the conversation today is like way different to the one we had a couple days ago. And I just love the way the show's evolving and the diversity of our guests. That's my main good news, in addition to what Daniel shared. And then lastly, like, I have this ongoing challenging relationship with LinkedIn and just posting. And Daniel always is like, you got to post more, you got to post more. And it really is a love-hate situation for me. But I posted twice this week. So I'm doing good on my LinkedIn goals here, guys. So it's my good news.
That's good. That takes a lot of energy.
It
It really
does.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm also excited about Transform. I think I was telling you guys this before because it is the only reason I will go to Las Vegas. And last year I was at the conference completely sober because I was pregnant, and I still had an incredible time, which I think is like pretty hard to do if you're in your first trimester of pregnancy and you're in Las
Very
Vegas.
hard.
And I'm just so excited that I won't be pregnant this year. I'm really looking forward to all the happy hours and connecting with everybody. So that's part of my good news as well, I suppose. But my other good news is related, which is that I'm about a month now back from my maternity leave. And I think after having your first kid, your head gets all jumbled up. And even though I was doing some stuff when I was out, was trying to focus on the kid, and then you come back and you kind of have this moment of panic where you're like, did everybody forget about me? Am I still good at my job? And I think I was having a real crisis of confidence for a little bit, but I feel like this week I'm hitting my groove. I'm having conversations with awesome people like you guys, connecting with our community of HR leaders, talking to our portfolio companies. I'm like, no, I still got it. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. So that's how I'm feeling. That's my good news.
That is, yeah, I've only observed that process of going on maternity leave and re-entering the workplace, and that I based on what I observed, it can be really, really difficult. So kudos to you for just like getting in and doing it. And so, well, it's not often that we get to speak with someone in the venture capital world. So for the people out there that have some curiosity about the space or wondering how to get into the VC world, and we'll talk about the focus of the firm that you're a part of, Allison. But before we get there, I think that people should hear your story and why you're on the show, how it relates to HR and the future of work and work tech. And I think for those that do have curiosity, they're going to learn a lot of things in this conversation. So, walk us through your journey. How did you become a general partner at SemperVirens?
Yeah, happy to share the story. And, I wrote a whole book on this recently, which I think we'll touch on a lot over the course of the conversation. It's called Breaking into Venture. And I actually start the book by sharing all of the jobs I wanted to have when I was little. I wanted to grow up and become a veterinarian or the president or plenty of ridiculous things, but never for a single moment did I ever stop and think, I'd really like to be a venture capitalist. So I guess I just kind of found myself here more because I cared about the why of helping technology achieve and fulfill its promise of making our world better instead of tearing it apart. And that's what really led me to venture investing, because I cared about making work better for everyone. And I think you have to kind of have that why if you are going to get into investing as a career path, just because otherwise you get lost in all the financials and it's not really just about the money. But my career path was, I grew up watching both of my parents' jobs being disrupted by technology. My mom had her own graphic design business. My dad was an architect, and then he worked at the Chicago Board of Trade. And I saw technology disrupting both of their jobs, and they had to constantly reinvent themselves and figure out how to figure out a path forward, and caused a lot of stress in my family. And so from very young, I basically decided I did not want that to happen to me. I was very focused on not becoming my parents, and, worked really hard, went to college, started my career, got a job at Goldman Sachs on the trading floor. I thought I had hit it big and I was going to be set for the rest of my life. And then the financial crisis happened. And all of a sudden, there was a lot of pressure on the business and a lot of jobs were being automated. And really, the career pathway that I had envisioned for myself, even just 2 years out of school, was pretty much blown up in my face. And so I think at that moment, realized that for me, somebody who's coming from, ton of privilege, someone who has spent their entire adult life thinking about how do I not have this happen to me, the fact that it happened anyway, I think meant that technology is coming for all of our jobs. And whether or not we think so, it definitely is going to change the way we work and change our career prospects. So kind of decided I wanted to be on the disrupting side instead of the disrupted side, and tried to get a job in technology. So interviewed at all the tech companies that were launching in New York at that time. And basically all of them were like, yeah, I don't really know what you would do here. Like, that's great that you can trade equity derivatives. We don't care. That's great that you have an economics degree. We don't care. We need to hire people that are going to build products and market products online. And I didn't even know what those jobs were. I didn't have the skill set. And that was also pretty upsetting considering I was only a couple of years out of school, was lucky enough to go to Harvard. And it's like, if that didn't equip me for the world, like what possibly could? And so there was clearly a gap there. And so I ended up finding a job at an early stage venture-backed startup called General Assembly. And we were training people in technology skills so that they could pursue work that they loved. So didn't know anything about our product necessarily because I didn't have the tech skills and didn't really know much about education, but was really passionate about the problem we were solving. So ended up jumping on board, helped build and launch our first part-time and full-time courses in New York, training people in skills like web development, digital marketing, user experience design. And that's where I really started interacting with HR leaders because we found that large employers were trying to figure out how to upskill their employees in some of these tech skills. So started building relationships that way, ended up moving to Asia to launch our business in Asia. So moved to Hong
Wow.
Kong. Yeah. Had never been there before, but showed up, had to figure everything out from scratch, set up our business there. And then while I was there, I think I saw how big of an impact our investors were having on our trajectory as a business. They were definitely defining success in a lot of ways. And I didn't necessarily understand why they were thinking the way they were thinking. So wanted to learn more about venture capital, started running classes on angel investing and started to build some relationships. And then ended up starting a fund with a partner out in Asia called Fresco Capital. We were a global seed fund investing in future of work, ed tech, and healthcare startups. That brought me to Japan, ended up investing in about 70 companies through that fund. And
Jeez.
throughout it was a really busy time. I like to say my address was in Hong Kong and then in Tokyo, but I spent most of my time on, the middle seat of the economy class of an airplane somewhere on a long haul flight. And I think because of my experience as an operator and my experience building a venture fund out in Asia, I was really passionate about changing venture capital. I felt strongly that because the products we were funding really impacted people's lives, that we needed to have a little bit of a different lens. But I was worried that I didn't totally understand venture capital either because there were a lot of pieces that didn't make sense to me. So I thought if I really want to understand venture capital, I should probably move to the Bay Area. So I moved to San Francisco in 2018 and spent some time on Sand Hill Road at a more traditional venture fund called Trinity Ventures. And then that's how I got to know kind of the team at SemperVirens, ended up joining as a general partner in Fund One. We focus on companies that are transforming relationships between employers and employees. So workforce technology, healthcare technology, and financial technology that is interacting with the employer-employee relationship.
Love it. It's like our careers have been oddly similar, but in very different ways. We both worked at Goldman. I pursued deals in the HR tech world from a HR practitioner background. And you've never been a practitioner, but you are an expert in the space from having been involved in an operator role and then obviously as a VC. And so it's just so amazing. I bet you've seen a lot of change over the years. And we're going to talk about an article you wrote in 2019. And so what has been the biggest change that you've seen just from a VC perspective since you wrote that article, the investing in the future of work in 2019, right?
Yeah, wrote it in 2019, started investing in the space 2014, 2015. I think the biggest change has been when I started thinking about what the future would look like. I was talking a lot about globally distributed teams. That had been my experience myself as an investor and an operator, but also kind of what we were seeing in terms of how companies were being built. But it was a pretty niche sector, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody was sort of like, what future of work? What does that really mean? That's so specific. And it was in a way hard to get people's attention, frankly. And then when the pandemic happened, all of a sudden it was top of mind for everybody. Every investor is a future of work investor. We saw an explosion in new companies and innovations and solutions in this space. And it was really exciting because the floodgates totally opened and everybody was trying to reimagine the way we worked. I think we heard from the HR community as well. All of a sudden, they were thrust into the spotlight and really became the most important individual at their companies, right? I mean, we all know they're most important anyway, but all of a sudden, everybody else was recognizing it. So that was really exciting. I think we're entering a little bit of a new phase where people are saying, oh, it's been awesome to experiment, but now we need to really figure out what things are going to look like longer term and how we make them work. But I think just seeing that cycle of, I read in an article sometime that like the role of a real artist is to kind of put their hands on the ground and feel rumblings before an earthquake and kind of figure out what matters before everybody else realizes it. And I think that's a little bit what we do as a venture capitalist as well, of like trying to figure out trends before they're happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest component in the success of a company and ultimately an investor as well is timing. And you may not have the ability to predict exact timing. I don't think anybody expected a global pandemic to make us all rethink how we work and why and where and how. But certainly it has played out that way.
We interviewed, or we had rather, Josh Burson on the show, and that was the episode we just recorded, and he just wrote a book called Irresistible, and in advance of our conversation with him, I read the book, and one of the points that he made in Irresistible is that problems that previously took teams months, if not years, to solve, after, like, during core pandemic, they were solving these problems in weeks because they had to. And
right,
you just walking through that shift in my head, that's immediately what I thought of. And you could feel it. It was like, we got to do this. This is survival mode. And you don't often think like, oh, particularly in the work tech space. So that makes a lot of sense.
Definitely. And part of the mission of breaking into venture and trying to talk to more people about how venture capital works is that I think now we're entering a new phase where there has been, every venture investor got excited about the future of work. They're investing in all these technology solutions that are helping people get jobs done better. And now the rubber is really hitting the road of companies that took venture capital. They have to produce big outcomes. And the ones that aren't on that pathway aren't necessarily going to get continued funding and support. And so for the people using these technologies and the people working at these companies, you kind of need to understand that in order to figure out where you should be investing your time, your capital as a buyer. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand how those worlds intersect, but now is more important than ever because we're going to see a lot of those tools go away or fall by the wayside or get absorbed into larger tools. And if you spend a lot of time investing in a certain software solution and it goes away, that's not an ideal outcome for anybody.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But before we do, first, I kind of wanted to just set the stage for our listeners by getting your help establishing a couple of things. So, one, when you say the future of work, what do you mean by that? And two, why is it so important?
I'll start with the second question because I think figuring out how to make work better for everybody is the most important problem of our lifetimes. People spend over 70,000 hours at work while they're alive. They spend more time at work than they do with their loved ones. And going into the pandemic, this was before the pandemic, 80% of people are so unhappy at their jobs that it actually impacted their personal lives. Mental health is something that we're all talking about now, but a couple years ago, everybody was suffering quite silently from not feeling connected or fulfilled or frankly paid enough by their job. And it creates a lot of stress. So I think part of the promise of technology is how can we make that better? But unless we all play a role in imagining what that looks like and we bring diverse voices into the mix, it's going to end up making work better for the rich and powerful and not for everybody else. So I think it is really incredible problem that impacts literally everybody. And when I talk about the future of work from an investment perspective, we're investing in technology that is related to how jobs get done. So everything from how do you find your job? How do you interview for your job? How do you start your job? How do you actually do your job? How do you collaborate with your teammates? And then also, what does your employer provide you as part of that agreement? You're providing a service for them, and what do you get in return? Healthcare benefits, payments. What else should they be providing you? Those are all kind of tied into this sort of workforce technology, healthcare technology, and financial technology piece.
I love it. And just going back to the article in 2019 around the future of work, you introduced this concept of the 3Ds. Do you mind sharing with our audience what those are and why they're so important?
I love alliteration because I have a really bad memory. So I was definitely not the kind of person that did well memorizing things in school. I always had to derive the equation on every try. But so that's why I use a lot of alliteration. The 3Ds to me are the future of work is digital, distributed, and data driven. So digital meaning a lot of work is happening virtually and not necessarily in person, or some component of it is digital, distributed over space and time. So I think you're seeing people build distributed careers, meaning they actually have multiple jobs at once. You build a portfolio of jobs, and you also kind of distribute. It used to be, my mother and father-in-law spent their entire careers at the same company, and they just retired last year. That's exceedingly rare today. I mean, people are changing jobs on average every 2 years, and post-pandemic, I'm sure that's actually shorter. And that's the norm, right? So our careers are distributed over time as well. And we're working remotely or hybrid in some way. So that there's a lot to that kind of distributed piece. And then data driven insofar as we do work digitally, it's measurable. And how do we make better decisions as employers, but also for ourselves on where we should be investing our time, because our time is our most limited asset. And post pandemic, I actually added 2 more Ds.
Ooh, let's hear them. So it's the 5 Ds
Yeah.
now.
It's not the 5 Ds. I can't stop. It's addictive, but I did add dynamic and diverse. I think the dynamic piece is really interesting. There was just an article in the Wall Street Journal that I was posting about that I really disagreed with. The author was saying this is the great rebalancing and we're on a roller coaster ride. We went up and employees had a lot more power post pandemic, and now we're rebalancing and the powers in the hands of employers again. And I just completely disagree with that. This is a fundamental shift insofar as employees have more options than they ever had before. And we're also seeing with more options and more flexibility comes more volatility. And I think people at work today, especially those who were just laid off, they were probably laid off for the second or the third time in the matter of 3 years. And that's become the norm. I don't think that's ever going away. I think we're going to see these bigger and bigger swings become the norm. And so from a dynamic perspective, it just means change is not slowing down at all. And the diverse piece, I think, should be self-explanatory, but I think because we've removed a lot of the physical constraints of work, it means it's a lot easier to work with people that are different from you. Well, it should be easier, but it isn't always, right?
I'm so glad that you brought up that post. Stephen, I don't know if it was like 4 or 5 nights ago, I get this text from Stephen and it's a screenshot of your post. He's like, we have to bring this up whenever we talk to Allison. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that you brought it up and we totally agree. We recently wrote an article called 8 Biggest Learnings from HR Leaders in 2022 from the Modern People Leader. And one of them was Gen Z is asking for the things that we've always wanted. And basically just that the power is in the hands of employees and not employers anymore. And people expect a lot from their companies. They want flexibility. They want, diversity. They want their company to care about the same things that they care about and to speak out about it. And, they want to know how they're going to grow with you. If you can't show them how you're going to be able to do that, they have options. And not only will they maybe go leave your company for another company, but they might start their own company. There's more
Yeah.
pathways and platforms to do so than ever before, whether it's starting a podcast the way that we have, or you have a YouTube channel, or you're an influencer on Instagram. There's so many low cost ways to start your own business, and I think that Gen Z, I guess it's more in their face than it was for everybody else, so they know it's possible.
Yeah, and they're empowered to make those choices. I wrote another article about the concept of leaning out. I think I spent a lot of my career trying to take Sheryl Sandberg's advice and lean in and work harder and try to change the way I dressed, or wear higher heels or lower heels or glasses, or taking a seat at the table in front of everybody else. But it's like, you're playing the wrong game. And that's what I realized, is that you have to vote with your feet, and you're way better off leaning out of a system that isn't working for you than trying to change it. Now, maybe that's a defeatist attitude, but I think we have to provide better alternatives for folks. And that's what's so exciting about some of these new platforms and companies that are thinking about their employees in different ways, as they're presenting viable options for people that don't necessarily fit into a model or a system that wasn't really built for them anyway.
And to add to that, I think that the companies that are investing in policies and processes and technology that enables the shift that we're seeing are, I believe, could achieve escape velocity from a talent perspective. Like, they're going to be so far ahead of the game in terms of the way that they operate, that for these bigger companies that are these behemoths that can't digitally transform their HR function, it takes 3 years, 4 years. Like, how are they going to create the infrastructure required for a real kind of remote first or just digitally enabled workforce? I think it's going to be a challenge. And I think we're going to see some companies really struggle with that and lose out on attracting the best talent.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about SemperVirens. And I just want to make sure, am I saying that right? It's SemperVirens, not Virens.
I think I got it wrong. My
you
apologies.
Can say it either way.
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
I think someone on a panel once introduced me as coming from Semper Vitinsky.
Okay,
so I think you guys are both ahead of the game on your pronunciation for sure.
Okay, good. Just always like to double check. But
yeah,
both Stephen and I are really impressed by what y'all are doing and the entire ecosystem that y'all have been able to build around your fund. And I know you shared a little bit about what makes SemperVirens different, but can you share a little bit more about SemperVirens and how it's drastically different than most of the other VCs out there?
Definitely. So we focus exclusively on the future of work. So companies selling B2B, healthcare, workforce, and financial technology solutions. And what's unique about our platform is we focus on who the technology is actually for. So we have an ecosystem of end buyers for these solutions. So it really started with a community of HR leaders, and that community has grown to over 100 senior HR leaders at enterprise scale businesses. We run a community for them. We learn from them. We introduce them to new technology innovations. We leverage them during our diligence process to understand, what do they actually need? What do they actually want? What would they actually buy? What are they buying? What are they not renewing? We learn so much from how that group thinks. And then after we invest, we're able to make some high value introductions for our portfolio companies, which helps grow their value as well. So it's a win-win from that perspective. And then we also have expanded our ecosystem into other strategic buyers of this technology. So I think what's so interesting about this phase that we're entering right now with the future of work is there is an active question around, what should an employer buy for their employee? And as budgets get tightened, folks are saying, should I really be the one paying for this? And especially when it comes to healthcare, financial wellness, and even some kind of upskilling and reskilling, there are other stakeholders that have been realizing value, but not necessarily paying for these products. And those are health plans and systems, insurance carriers, individuals, universities. And so we've expanded our ecosystem to include those buyers as well, so that we can start to triangulate, where is their opportunity, where is their budget, and where can these technology solutions have the biggest impact. So that's kind of what makes us unique. I think what's interesting about venture capital is there's 3 A's that you need to achieve in order to be successful. You need to access great investment opportunities. You need to analyze them efficiently and effectively according to your investment style. And then you have to add value after you've invested. The cool thing about investing in private markets versus public markets is you can actually influence where these companies go. You can influence how they're building their products and who they're for and how quickly they grow. And that's really where we think our secret sauce is SemperVirens is kind of connected to all three of those, but especially on the add value side.
And for those that are not familiar with the venture capital world, this is a new concept, at least as far as I'm aware of a venture capital firm that is solely focused on the future of work and or work tech. And historically, you would see VC firms that would have like a thesis on HR and HR tech,
Yeah.
or they were pursuing it. There was an end goal of an exit to a larger company in the HR tech space, because there have been a couple of big venture cycles, startup cycles in HR tech. But this is really a new thing, and it's so cool and exciting to see. But you guys see a lot of deals, right? I think you mentioned you look at 1,500 deals a year, investment opportunities.
Least.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so why do you think it is, and a lot of those you choose not to invest in, and it's really hard being a founder of a work tech company? It's particularly difficult in our space, I believe. Obviously, I have a bias. Do you agree with that statement that building a work tech company is hard? And if you do, what are some of the difficulties or nuances specific to kind of this specific industry?
It's a great question, and one that I think it's important for founders to understand, because venture capital is not for everybody. And so it's important to understand how venture capitalists are incentivized. And for us, we look at 1,500 companies a year. We invest in between 10 to 15, and that's every year. So I've been investing for about 10 years. I've probably made about 100 investments, and you make money on probably 3 to 5 over the course of your entire career. So every portfolio you invest out of a fund, and you'll make investments in 25 to 35 companies per fund. And really, you're optimizing for outliers, because if you invest in 30 companies, 29 of them could go to zero. But if one is worth several $billion, you will make a ton of money. And so that's a very strange and different mindset that I think a lot of founders might not appreciate. And there are a lot of really important problems that need to be solved in this space. But the question is really, how big of a problem is it? And how big of a company can you effectively and profitably build by solving that problem? So that's something we think about a lot. And there are a lot of companies that I look at that are amazing founders, and they're beautiful products and people love them, but the math just doesn't work out for a venture investor.
Right.
And that's hard. I think it's hard to come to that realization as a founder, but it's also hard as a venture capitalist that cares a lot about solving these problems. And I wish I could invest in every single one of them.
Yeah. And, you know, part of what I think makes SemperVirens really unique is the fact that you have this network of, you said what, 150 HR leaders?
A little over 100. Yeah.
And is that a common approach that most VCs have, like having a community that's built around their fund?
I think it's more rare than it should be.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I feel like having access to that community and being able to sort of spot I don't know how you put it earlier, putting your hand to the ground and
Yeah.
feeling the rumblings before the earthquake comes. Like, what are some of the rumblings that you're feeling right now?
That's a great question. Lots of rumblings. The question is, which ones are going to actually become earthquakes? I think right now, and this is what's so cool about our community, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, but I think it's so important to connect the people building technology with the people that are implementing it. And there's a huge gap in venture capital between what somebody sitting on Sand Hill Road thinks the future of work is going to look like, which is incredibly privileged, incredibly, in some ways, isolated and not very diverse. And, the people that are out there actually building the future of work and influencing the lives of their employees, which are HR leaders. And so part of what we try to do is be the bridge between those two worlds, because there's a lot of exciting innovation happening. And a lot of times if you're in the day-to-day, you don't really have the ability to take a step back and say, how do we reimagine this whole thing? But there's also a lot of really idiotic ideas that come to Silicon Valley that don't really work in reality. And so that's part of what we want to connect. I guess to your question about rumblings, I spent a lot of my time talking about skills-based hiring and how do we break away from traditional job descriptions and focus more on skills and competencies. I think Josh Burson talks about this a lot as well. It's something that everybody's excited about, but really hasn't come to fruition, frankly. I see probably every quarter, I'll see 4 or 5 companies that are promising to do something around skills-based hiring, internal mobility, skills mapping. And none of them have really gone anywhere, I think, because for a number of reasons, but there's rumblings there. I'm just trying to figure out what's the right timing where something might break out.
I forget what show it was, but I remember like in the middle of the conversation, we were talking about this concept, and I was like, it's like we need an Upwork for internal mobility, like where you search for the specific thing you need done, and you get a list of people with a rating that are available to work on or interested, right? They may not be available, but they're interested. But that would just be a total game changer, because it, I think it's Steve Cadigan that we had on that talked a lot about how so many companies can't unlock the talent they have in house because they don't have a way of doing that. They're just unnecessary barriers preventing it from happening.
Right. And I have had this conversation before, and I think part of the problem with some of those solutions is that if you really want to change the way people operate, you have to change their incentives. And so if people aren't getting paid for doing that work, or they're saying, oh, let me take on this other project, but I need to hit my KPIs because that's what my bonus is tied to. I think there needs to be some major rethinking around compensation in order to unlock some of that innovation.
Being on the HR tech side for the last 8 years and working for 3 separate HR tech companies, I know how it goes on the sales side, especially if you're working for a company that's considered a more of a vitamin or a supplement than a painkiller. And I'm just curious, in your opinion, what are some of the need to haves that you think are still ripe for disruption? Is it all of the above? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I laugh about this because it's such a trope, right? In venture capital and startups. How do you become a painkiller?
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a vitamin, but like vitamins are a giant business. Like, do you know how much money people spend on vitamins?
Yeah, people have whole Amazon businesses selling vitamins. So
right, exactly. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with the whole idea that, and painkillers. Oh gosh, we don't even want to get started on the litigation there. But yeah, I mean, I think there's during the pandemic, everything felt need to have, and that was exciting, but it also created a lot of complex signals for entrepreneurs and investors, frankly, because I think we're seeing now as budgets aren't necessarily changing, but they're consolidating. And there's a little bit less discretion around, let me just try this new thing. And so I think there are a lot of companies that thought they had product market fit, and now they're realizing that they had pandemic market fit. And so things are shaking back out. I mean, I think the need to haves are always pretty consistent in HR. The one that I've seen come up quite a bit is anything to help with the reality of a hybrid workforce. So that's definitely need to have. And then I think for HR teams at technology companies where they've been included in the slimming down of headcount, they're having to do more with less. So there are some new emerging kind of opportunities around automation and making teams more efficient on the HR side, applying AI to map internal knowledge and provide better compliance processes where you used to have a person doing something and now you don't have those people. So I think those are where the opportunities are in the next couple of quarters, but I don't know. I want to be surprised about what's need to have versus nice to have.
It's interesting. You always know that we're having a really good conversation on the Modern People Leader when Daniel and I are like interrupting each other trying to ask questions. And I just looked at the clock. I'm like, oh no, we're running out of time. My everything, so many things, have come up for me as a founder of a work tech company, in that what you guys are doing is so genius, because to me the two most difficult things launching an HR tech company, it's getting your MVP right, because many times HR wants a enterprise ready. Even smaller companies are hiring savvy HR leaders, and now there are communities of HR leaders that are sharing like, hey, we use this great tool and it's enterprise ready. And so there's this expectation, like even if they're going to take a bet on it, the MVP has to be really, really good. And I'm not sure, if you go back to the lean startup kind of way of thinking, it's like, oh, well, you could use a deck as your MVP. And that's not the case in the work tech space. And then the second thing is an understanding of the HR organization, because there's multiple buyers. Yeah, it's hard. It can be hard to sell into because there's multiple buyers. If you're selling a product to total rewards versus talent management, those are two different groups with two different buyers. And so having a community that can help understand like a minimal viable product for said problem needs to look like this, and you can help your portfolio companies understand, in order to close a deal and to really do business, this is the way you should be looking at your buyer. And man, to have had that as part of my team, right, would have been invaluable. And I just think it's so cool that you guys are doing what you're doing. The second add-on to what you were just sharing is, I noticed in the 2019 article we keep talking about that, you mentioned 4 technology work tech categories, or just technology categories in general: automation services, human capital services, digital and physical infrastructure, and security and identity management. And I'm just like shaking my head. I wish I had read this back in 2019, but it's eerie how well you nailed it. And
Thank you.
right. And number 1 on the list, automation services, like with Daniel and I in one of our riffs talked about how there's a huge opportunity for AI tools right now, particularly in talent acquisition, because you have less talent acquisition people, less recruiters having to do this job. And so you need tools that are going to make that process significantly easier. And so I believe, like, if you're in a work tech founder in the AI space, like, now's your time to shine, and there are a ton of opportunity. And so
definitely
just wanted to share that. But before we run out of time, tell us a little bit. You mentioned a book earlier. We haven't had a chance to talk about it. If you nailed it in the 2019 article, I can't wait to read your book. So tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. I'm honored. I don't mind being before my time, as long as there's good timing at some point in my career where you're right place, right time. Breaking into venture is about how venture capital really works. So I share 9 principles for success in the industry that hopefully are helpful, whether you're a founder, an angel investor, someone using a venture-backed technology, or you're kind of early in your venture capital career trying to figure out if this is what you want to do long term. My mission in writing the book is partially what I mentioned before, in that we have such a huge disconnect between the people funding new technology and the people who it ultimately impacts. And that doesn't work because if you haven't had a lived experience, you can't anticipate how new technologies are going to impact you. So I think about Facebook or Instagram, where, today we're dealing with terrible, terrible ramifications for the mental health of teens and young women. And those people weren't at all involved in the creation of the company or the business model. And so the more we can bring diverse voices onto the investing side of the table, that's where I think we'll have more power to influence how technology actually plays out in our world and whether or not it is fulfilling its promise of democratizing information, opportunity. So I think for me, it's really about drawing more people into venture capital by demystifying how it actually works. And so I do everything from explain how a venture capitalist makes money and how that impacts the people around them, to how we think about making investments. So what are the criteria we actually use to score an investment? What are our downfalls? So talk about all the stories where I've made bad investments and what it was exactly that blinded me in that case. And then also some, concrete mechanisms for staying in the industry and navigating the industry if you want to stay there. I think it's one where if you're making venture investments or you are a venture investment, it takes 5, 10, sometimes even 15 years to arrive at an ultimate outcome. And so how do you stay motivated and incentivized in the meantime? And so those are all kind of some of the things that I cover in the book. But ultimately, it's really about making it more accessible for folks. Even if you read it and you're like, wow, this industry sucks and I don't want to be involved with it at all, like, then great, you should make that decision, but you should be empowered with the real information, which, I think because of how the industry works, people are not incentivized to tell you the truth.
No,
I am 100.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we keep
We did
doing
it
this,
again.
but I
Yeah.
know I'm getting excited. I'm excited for this book to come out. It comes out in March, right?
March 7th.
Okay. I am 100% going to read this. So my older brother, he, similar to both of y'all, started his career at Goldman Sachs. He was there for a while and then worked at a couple other companies, and now he's in private equity. And me not being a finance guy or truly understanding that world, there's a lot of times that he's talking to me about different deals that he's working on or, models that he's putting together. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And to your point, like making VC more accessible, I'm excited to read this book. I want it to be explained to me like a little kid because that's how I learn best. And yeah, no, I'm just really excited to read the book. Sorry for interrupting you again, Stephen.
No, it was very, very similar what I'm gonna share. And that's that as a founder, one of the things that bummed me out the most was how little information is shared. And if you're either in the know or you're not in the know in the startup kind of VC world. That's how it feels. That might not be that's how I experienced it. And to have like the insight, and of course I network. One of my strengths is I have a pretty robust network, and so I can find the information. I was ultimately able to find the information that I needed to have, but man, it can feel so lonely, and you can feel so lost as a founder trying to navigate the venture capital landscape, and it feels like you're spinning your wheels, and you're seeing no progress. And so this is gold.
Totally.
What your book is going to share with people, and so for all the work tech founders, highly recommend, based on my experience, I think it would be wise to read the book. And so I know that we need to start wrapping things up. And my last question for you as it relates to kind of the venture capital world is, what one piece of feedback do you have for, any potential work tech founder that's out there considering launching a work tech company?
Feedback or advice?
Advice. Sorry.
Yeah,
Advice.
I was like, I mean, I think my advice is to get out there and talk to the people that you're building for and decide who is your audience and stick to that. I think if you're just getting started, you're going to hear a lot of advice from a lot of different people. And understand how to contextualize that advice. I think whenever you're starting something new, but especially in this market, you get feedback. I meet so many founders that said, oh, well, I talked to the chief people officer of XYZ company and they said they would buy this. And you have to drill deeper and make sure that it's not just that one person saying that, but how big is that market if you're targeting that exact type of customer, and make sure that you're actually backing up anecdotes with data, because I think it's really easy to kind of have an idea in your head and then just look for confirmation in the world. And you have to be really ruthless about making sure that you're not just hearing what you want to hear. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Love it.
All right, so we got to get Steven out of here so we can get to soccer practice. But let's get into our rapid fire questions. So for this first question, I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on it. So the normal question that we ask is, how do you define a modern people leader? What are the traits and characteristics? And the spin that I'm going to put on it is, as an investor, what are the traits and characteristics that you're looking for in founders?
Ooh, I think that my answer to the first question was going to be, I think modern people leaders think like entrepreneurs. So I think also entrepreneurs need to think like modern people leaders. So maybe that's part of what we're looking for, which I think ties to, we talk about something called founder market fit, which is, do you have experience with the problem that you're solving for the people that you're selling it to? And I think that's really, really important. A lot of people start HR tech companies or future of work businesses because they've had a job or they've hired people before.
Yeah.
But like, that's not enough. I think, so that's definitely something we have top of mind when we're evaluating companies.
Yeah, founder market fit. I like that. I don't know if I shared this with you the other day when we were sharing our quick stories, but part of the initial reason that we started the Modern People Leader, at least my why, was to sort of be able to feel the rumblings that are coming, and
Yeah.
so that if I did want to start my own company one day, I would have that founder market fit. So not quite there yet. I don't think I'm ready for that yet, quite yet, but I love that. All right, next question. If you could go back in time and talk to a 22-year-old you, what career advice would you give yourself and why?
I would probably tell myself to stop feeling bad about everything. I think I've always had these gut feelings, and I kind of followed those feelings and those intuitions as I've navigated different chapters of my career. But I've always had that extra layer of, should I be feeling this way? Is this the right thing? Shouldn't I want something different? And it's so unproductive, because once you finally let go of that, you're able to just forge a path that's right for you. And that's what makes me so excited about how technology is unlocking the future of work, because there are so many more pathways that you can follow in order to find success. It's not just, one cookie cutter way of doing things. And so I wish that I had just embraced that earlier.
It's fun hearing all the different responses to that question, and almost all of them are in some way saying just follow your gut, like trust
Yeah.
your intuition. So love that. All right, so last question, and again, it's really fun asking you these questions because it's a completely different lens. But if you could fix, let's say you're a founder and you could fix any HR or people problem with a magic wand, what would it be and why?
I think the term fix is hard because it implies that something is like, you have to sort of reinstate it to the way that it was. But I think going back to this concept of changing incentives and changing the way people are compensated, I would fix that problem, because I think that misalignment is really holding innovation back in a lot of ways. And one of the reasons why the future of work is an area I wanted to focus on, and why I think the timing is now for all of these new opportunities, is that we've seen a huge increase in productivity over the last 40 years, but we have not seen a commensurate increase in wages. And that's why I think a lot of people are suffering. And so I think we need to reimagine kind of what is that contract, and how do people get paid, and from whom, and how can we kind of restore more widespread financial wellness in the workforce.
Daniel, we need to go back to everyone that has answered compensation to this question and see if they would join a group conversation, a group chat about what this new world could look like with a more functioning approach to compensation and pay. Just, food for thought, but that would be super cool.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. And I just was emailing with one of our HR leaders in our community about that, because she said she was focused on that space, or she was watching that space because of the changes in pay transparency laws. So there might be some interesting timing there.
Oh, awesome. That would be nice. Well, time to wrap things up. And we've got, two final questions, part of our last tradition. We have been able to have amazing guests on this show, primarily through organic growth. And that came from the next question, which is, if there one or two people that you feel are just, individuals in the future of workspace, work tech space that we should have on the show, and we absolutely need to talk to, who would those individuals be?
There are a few people in our kind of HR leader community that I completely idolize. I think one of them is Mala Singh at Electronic Arts. I joke that I think Mala should run for president because she's so amazing. So if you haven't talked to her, you should really talk to her.
Awesome.
And then Jolyn Anderson from BNY Mellon is also incredible. We, back when I thought we were doing a podcast, we interviewed her, and it never made it to air, but she's incredibly thoughtful and insightful. And I think she's a great person as well.
We have neither on our radars, so we would love to have them on the show. And so
they'll both be at Transform.
Oh,
everyone's
guys, you gotta get
circle, you guys.
you gotta get to Transform. And we didn't even talk about the puppies, did we? I don't think
we didn't mention the puppies. Yeah, okay, the puppies and Nelly.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. What else could you ask for?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So with that, we're at our final tradition on the show, and that's closing things with one word or one phrase that you're taking away from this conversation. Who wants to go first?
Man,
I can go first. I'm gonna say curious. I have like a million more questions for you, and I'm sure that a lot of that can be answered in your book. So I'm excited to read that. But yeah, I mean, I think you could see it in me and Steven interrupting each other every 5 seconds. But I'm just so curious about this space.
I love that. That's a fantastic word. I think mine, just to go with alliteration, I would say connected. I think it's so cool to connect the dots between these different kind of parts of the ecosystem, and connect the dots and our thinking and our careers. And so this has been so fun. I feel so connected to you guys and excited to make more connections in the future.
All right. It has to be a C word.
Yeah.
I wish I had, but it's pretty good. And it's actually 2 words or a phrase, I guess. And I'm going to go with in awe, because I really am, Allison, you're like, what you're doing, what you've created, obviously with the help of others, your personal story, just everything. I'm really in awe of like what you've built and what you're doing. And it just was an awesome conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Love it. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been awesome, and excited for what's to come.
Excited to see you in March.
Yeah, we'll see you at Transform. All right. Bye.
Bye.